Hey, what's going on everybody? John here with Cine Park Rangers, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We talk all things movies and theme park related, and we kind of go over how the two work in tandem to bring quality entertainment to the masses, and yeah, we're glad you're here. So today I want to try something a little different. It's no secret that Disney's fan base includes mostly families, and by virtue of that, family-oriented content. That said though, there's a significant chunk of Disney's fan base that's also adults like me and probably like you who are watching this video. So with that, I'd like to dream for a moment. On March 20th, 2019, Disney bought 21st Century Fox, which, as you probably are aware, came with a lot of different IP. By the way, that acquisition was like $71.3 billion. A whole lot of cheddar cheese. But because it's a whole lot of cheddar cheese, it also came with a whole lot of IP. That's really stupid. Now, lots of that IP, Disney hasn't done anything with yet. And I know what you're thinking. By now, you're probably like, I'm just trying to get to the main point of this video. What's this video even about? Well, let me tell you. What would it look like if Disney adapted some of that newly acquired IP from Fox into their theme parks? In particular, what if Disney made an Alien ride? Yeah, like that Alien. So some of you theme park sweaties or old timers may be aware that Disney did kind of have an Alien ride already, and it operated from 1995 to 2003. No, not that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. No, I'm talking about extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. This was a ride where you, along with a bunch of other people, would get packed into this room. You would get down in your seat. You'd have this bar that came over your shoulders. You know, you kind of strap in. You're all packed in like sardines next to each other. And in the middle of the room, there's this big glass enclosure. And, well, they're trying to teleport this life form to you that's, you know, like cutesy and nice and fun. And instead...
Okay, let's see. Ornithius, carnivorous.
It eats meat?
Exactly, genius. Those people are in a lot of danger.
Yeah, you get this alien that, like, drooled on you, breathed on you, felt like it was, like, crawling next to you, and it scared people to death. Unfortunately, never got to test out this bad boy myself. I was only about 8 by the time the ride closed, and by the time I got to Disney World for the first time, the ride had already been changed over to that other one. So how did this ride even come to be? Well, in the late 80s, Disney CEO Michael Eisner had some input from his son and some other park guests that were older, and they told him essentially that in order to be successful, he needed to branch out and make attractions that were less catered towards the young crowd and more catered towards the older crowd. Not like senior citizens, but, you know, like adults, which in theory kind of makes sense. Now, we could go into a whole thing about Disney branding and all those sorts of things, but I digress. We don't need to go there today. Today, we're just going to talk about what that instilled in Eisner. So essentially, here's what happened. Eisner had ideas. Boy, did this man have some ideas. He wanted to bring Star Wars to the parks. He wanted to bring Indiana Jones to the parks. He wanted to bring Star Wars to the parks. Yeah, well, we can still dream that thing can be salvaged, I guess, maybe. But Alien got his attention. So Alien, just in case you're not aware, is a horror film that was directed by Ridley Scott in 1979 and featured kind of a band of misfits that went on this ship, and an alien boards the ship and kills everybody except for Ripley, who ends up being the lone survivor. And Eisner had a brilliant idea to craft a ride based on this film. Now, the new generation of Imagineers loved the idea. They were all for it. They wanted to make this sweet ride called Nostromo, which is the spacecraft that Ripley and her crew were on board during the duration of the Alien film. Now, the early inception of the ride featured a ride vehicle that you would strap into. Think probably Men in Black style, and you were going to shoot up a bunch of xenomorphs as you rode along and that sort of thing. This was quickly changed to a more Mission to Mars style ride, which is where Alien Encounter comes in. It's the type of ride where you strap in, you're seated, and basically there's a show that happens in front of you. And in this case, the show was going to be a xenomorph terrorizing you. Unfortunately, the old regime of Imagineers, some of whom were former Industrial Light and Magic employees, decided to take it upon themselves and talk to their former boss, George Lucas, to convince Eisner that crafting a ride around an R-rated movie wasn't the best idea for the parks. Which, fair enough, I guess. However, maybe just not Magic Kingdom. Maybe the right park, something like that could work. Maybe Hollywood Studios. And unfortunately for us, it worked. Eisner listened, and the ride shifted from an alien-themed attraction to an alien-themed attraction. Basically, what ended up happening was they just felt like the xenomorph had this connotation that was very scary and horror-based, and they were like, let's not have that IP attached to this attraction. So what they did was, instead, crafted this alien that looks like a giant insect bug thing that arguably is way more horrifying than the xenomorph ever was. The xenomorph, in my opinion, is sort of this like, you know, it is scary. It's scary. Don't get me wrong. It's a freaky looking thing. However, it also has been adapted enough at this point. Everyone knows what they are enough that it's considered a classic kind of movie creature. It's a staple. Whereas this new thing was just nightmare fuel. And here's where they went wrong. They didn't market this ride well. They marketed it as just another ride at Magic Kingdom. And yeah, they kind of said, it's scary, it's fun, it's gonna be, whatever. But what ended up happening was kids were horrified. Parents felt misled. And the ride kind of felt boring outside of the scare factor. And eventually it was changed into Stitch's Great Escape, which basically just was the same thing, but Stitch running around, and at the end he burped, and it smelled like a chili dog burp in your nose. And my goodness, did that just stay with me forever. I remember going on this ride, and yeah, I can still smell it. And of course, the ride did also garner a cult following, as anything of that nature will. People that love horror movies, people that love scary stuff, they enjoyed the ride. The ride was fun to them. It was missed when it went away. It was missed when it changed to Stitch's Great Escape. And the fanfare around the ride, once it made that shift, just steadily declined. And obviously, Stitch's Great Escape is now defunct as well. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with the current Disney World that we have today, as well as the Disneyland that we have today. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, over the past 5-6 years, it looks like a whole lot of rides centered around movies, centered around IP that's, kind of known within Disney culture, within the circles that enjoy the parks and also enjoy the movies, which makes sense. No harm, no foul, in my opinion. But Disney's greatness back in the day was creating these rides that sort of self-existed. They had their own intellectual property attached to them that you only got when you went to the parks. And there's something to that, I think. But in this new age, in this new era of Disney that we're in now, right, wrong, and different, however you want to view it, Disney is making missteps and has been making missteps for a while. I think that's a general statement that even people within Disney would agree with. Now, that said, it's not that it's all bad. It's just that Disney needs to shift their thinking a touch. So what does that look like? Well, I propose that Disney creates a more adult-centric area of the park. Which park that is, I don't know. I don't know exactly what all land they still have, what rides they're planning on getting rid of, changing, whatever. I don't know. But could it be possible to make a new ride centered around Alien? I think that Alien makes a whole lot of sense, honestly, just based on the acquisition that Disney has now with 21st Century Fox, they own Alien, quite literally. And it's just sort of shelved right now. I know that they're making a show or a movie or whatever it is. I didn't do research into that for this video's purposes. However, a ride centered around Alien, well, yeah, that makes sense. And also, none of this is to say that Alien got completely sidelined. It did actually end up being part of the Great Movie Ride, so you got to see Ripley and the Xenomorph and that sort of thing as you ride through, which is all fun and dandy, and my heart will miss the Great Movie Ride. My goodness. As a filmmaker, as someone who just appreciates films in general, I loved that ride. Always did. Even growing up as a little kid, it was one of my favorites. So I'm sad to see it go. That said, Mickey and Minnie's is one of the best rides in Hollywood studios now. We have a little video about that. If you want to go check it out, that would be very nice. Thank you very much. I think that an attraction that's similar to Mickey and Minnie's, but adult themed, centered around Alien, makes a whole lot of sense. So what does that look like? Okay, here's what I propose. As you get on the ride vehicle, it's trackless, as Mickey and Minnie's is, as Rise of the Resistance is. You go through, you start, and it starts sort of Alien 1. It's very suspenseful, it's very horror-based, it's very moody, and you feel the dread that the first movie sort of makes you feel. But it only lasts, for a minute or two. And the ride vehicle is not only a seated ride vehicle, but it's equipped with guns. Specifically the M41As from James Cameron's Aliens. And as you ride through, you encounter that first Xenomorph from the first movie, and you light it up. You explode it. It dies. It's gone. Bye-bye. And it feels like the ride's already over. But, of course, something has to go wrong. And then your ride vehicle takes a little detour. You go into the nest, and you're all of a sudden surrounded by eggs everywhere. And the facehuggers are coming after you, crawling out of the eggs. And you've got to kill as many as you can. And the whole time, you're racking up a score. It's like Toy Story Mania, It's like Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. You're doing the thing. You're shooting them up. It's good. It's fun. It's a good time. And after you get through that section, you end up in the thick of it. You've got xenomorphs everywhere, and it's a blend. It's animatronics. It's Disney's insanely cool projection software that's actually really good now. Not the weird eye thing that they've been doing, but the stuff on the walls. Again, I harken back to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And then at the end, you assimilate with other ride vehicles because, you've got multiple ones going at the same time. You all line up into an attack formation. And what's in front of you? None other than the Queen Xenomorph. And you got to light her up, man. You got to kill her. You got to take care of it. You got to kill her. You got to make sure that she dies so you can get out of that ride. No, but I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that there's some low-hanging fruit there, and I think that that's not the only more adult-oriented IP that Disney owns that they could sort of capitalize on in this way and make an area of the park that's feasible for not just adults, but also teenagers. Lean into the more James Cameron campy side of Aliens, not necessarily the chest-bursting horror stuff that's in the first Alien movie. Not all of the terror and suspense. Give it a little bit up front. Make it fun, make it enjoyable, but don't do anything crazy with it. Let it be so that if a 10-year-old wants to ride it, they're not going to have nightmares about it, or maybe they will. Maybe make it so that, it's a little ambiguous in that way. I remember riding rides like that as a kid. I remember riding the Jaws ride at Universal, and it was like that for me. It scared me, but it was also fun. It was this thing. It was like you went to the park and you got to conquer something. None of that exists anymore. There's none of that sense of thrill in that sense. There's sense of thrill in terms of there are roller coasters that are, oh man, are you going to get on that one? There's that sort of thing still exists for sure. But the suspense, the horror rides, those are few and far between these days. So I think it would be cool for Disney and Universal both to sort of capitalize on those things. Make it fun, But the only way for those things to happen is for people to sort of voice their opinions. And I'm not naive. No one's going to watch this video. No one from Disney is going to see this thing and think, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool because it basically is just a reskinned, updated version of probably what they were thinking they were going to do in the late 80s, early 90s with it. You can use old ideas from those Imagineers from that era, many of who now are, the more seasoned Imagineers if they're still working there. So I think that it's a respect thing. Like, you can sort of respect the past, embrace the future with the new, state of the art ride systems that Disney's been utilizing lately, and you can also use IP that they don't typically use but that they own. But this is where I let you guys kind of discuss. Like, I want to hear from you. Comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you don't want to live without these videos. And if you want to see more videos, doing those things lets me know that this is something that you guys like. So please do all those things, and I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one.